broadcaster for HAPS News, HAPS TV. Hope you guys are well. And I'm here. I'm going to draw something that's on my mind. That's in the news today, as I do every day during the week at 5:30. So hope you guys are doing okay. It's to draw about the news makes people think a little differently about the news, I think. You know, when you watch somebody draw too, it gives you an interesting insight. And I've been a cartoonist for over 40 years, non-political but also political, and so it gives me an insight into, well, it doesn't mean insight. It gives me a unique perspective that is some people find interesting. And hi, Lucia from San Domingo. Good to see you. So let me turn this around and I'll start drawing for you. Today, I thought I would draw something about the Supreme Court hearings. The U.S. is questioning Amy Coney Barrett, who's a judge from Indiana and a lawyer, and she is Trump's choice to be on the Supreme Court to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg's spot. And the Democrats are not happy about that. They didn't think we should be having this kind of hearing right before an election or during an election year, which is what the Republicans claimed back when they wanted to put somebody in the Supreme Court during election year. They cried foul. And anyway, that's kind of beside the point now because they have control of the Senate, and this will probably go through. But anyway, I thought I'd draw about that. And hi, Pablo. Hi, Mark. Everybody, hello. So let me turn you around and I'll start drawing and tell you what I'm going to draw about. So Amy Coney Barrett is she's actually a very religious person apparently, and that shouldn't have any effect on her selection. I'm not going to criticize her religion. That's not let me just back up a little bit. What I wanted to draw about today was not so much Amy Coney Barrett, but something that happened in the hearings yesterday. I'll turn you around so I can talk about this, so you don't have to see it. What happened in the hearings yesterday was that and probably today too, I only listened to it intermittently, was that a lot of the Republican senators who were questioning her, along with their Democratic colleagues, were making a huge point about how Ms. Barrett has 7 children, 2 of whom are adopted, but that doesn't really, that's neither here nor there, they're her children. But they kept talking about her children and what an amazing mother she is, and how she can be a lawyer and a judge and a Supreme Court justice with 7 children. Isn't that incredible? And to me, yes, it's incredible. Anybody who raises 7 children is incredible to me, a man or a woman. I have 2 children, and that was enough. It was hard. So I think it's a double standard that they would never, meaning senators questioning a Supreme Court justice, they would not question a man the same way, or they would not point out the fact that, oh, look at Justice Scalia, he has 6 children. Isn't that amazing? He can still do his job and have 6 children. So it shouldn't be in the conversation. She just should be a candidate for the Supreme Court, and her ability as a woman and a mother is something to note, but not that important. Let's see what you guys are saying. Youngest of 9 here, all the same mom and dad. Wow, that must have been a real zoo. Was it fun? Trump has made religion issue when it shouldn't be. A common thing he's been doing for the past 4 years. Yeah, well, my opinion is Trump doesn't really have any religion. He's just using it for political purposes. But I don't know. Maybe he is very religious. When he was in New York, in the New York scene, and I was in New York, New Yorkers were very aware of him, and he was certainly not known as a religious person. Didn't act that way, whatever that means. Pablo, both my parents grew up with 11 siblings. I struggled with 1. Yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting thing to talk about in terms of women in leadership positions, or women in political positions, and their roles as traditional women. Because of course we know the Christian community, particularly one she comes from, Coney Barrett, she is a very conservative Christian community where they typically, from what I've read, they expect women to be in the role as wife and mother, and that's it. So how she managed to get around that, I don't know. I don't know the story of her upbringing or her. I don't know what her husband does. I mean, her husband is key, that he's okay with this. Many husbands in that type of community are not okay with their women working outside of the home, and that's because that's what they believe. Their religion tells them that the women should be in the home taking care of the children, and that's what God wants. So anyway, I'm talking a lot and I'm not drawing, so let me turn you around. And I think what I wanted to draw about, though, what led me to think about this was this conversation about her and her kids. And so I thought was thinking back to the women in my lifetime, and also the first person I'm going to draw a whole bunch of women that I think have made an impact on our thinking about what it means to be a woman and in political life. And the first one was somebody, of course, not in my lifetime, but Sojourner Truth. And she's was a abolitionist and a women's rights advocate. I don't remember the years. I should have written that down. But she made a very famous speech called "Ain't I a Woman?" And many of you probably know it, but she was saying, well, in arguing for women's equality, it's like, I'm a human being, ain't I a woman? I'm a person, and many people at that time, I've read about it, questioned whether she was a woman. Of course she was, but that's how skewed things were back then. And back then, also, women were supposed to be pampered, and they were supposed to be quote unquote revered and pampered, and I said that already, and taken care of, and they could not vote. They could not. Many women didn't want to vote either. They thought that was man's work. So another woman that I do remember from my lifetime who challenged our thinking about, as a country, about who can be in public office was Shirley Chisholm. And she was a congressman, the first black female congressman from New York, from anywhere, but she was from New York. And she always carried a handbag. Very powerful woman. And she ran for president, the first black woman to run for president in 1972. And I remember that. I was very young, but I do remember it. So Shirley Chisholm challenged our thinking about who can run for office, who can be in the public eye that way. Then the first woman, I believe, to be a vice presidential candidate was Geraldine Ferraro. She was chosen as the running mate of Walter Mondale. And I remember that. She was a strong lawyer, and I think she was a senator. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. She's from New York also. And she was in the news recently. She's no longer alive, but her name was in the news recently because she was on the debate stage with Herbert Walker Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, because he was the vice president running that year against Geraldine Ferraro. And hi, Peter from Seattle. So if you just join us, I'm Liza Donnelly. I'm a cartoonist for the New Yorker and other places, and I'm just talking about women who have challenged our assumptions about women in the public eye. This is not a historical list or a historical representation of the women, but they're women, aside from Sojourner Truth, who's the first one here. These are women that I remember in my growing up and in my young adulthood and my adulthood that I watched our country grapple with women's images, women's roles, women's, femininity, feminism. What does it mean to be a woman? This is Hillary Clinton. Who was, when she ran for president, first of all, when she was first lady, she was demonized. And then because she was different and she worked in the White House, which was new. We never had a first lady have a job other than decorating the White House. That was new. Then she ran for president. Then she was in the Senate. And then she ran for president. So she was really challenging all kinds of barriers and assumptions that our country had about women and what they were supposed to do and what roles they were supposed to play. And then the media, of course, was constantly attacking her looks, her outfits, her way of speaking, et cetera, et cetera. And then when Hillary ran for president, we had another sort of feminist conversation when Sarah Palin joined as the running mate to John McCain. And there she is with her gun, which I don't know how to draw guns, guys. So if you guys know how to draw guns, then you're laughing at me. But that's okay. Sarah Palin, I remember when Hillary was running, and the whole country was talking about women's rights, women's issues. Also, Hillary, when she was when she was first lady, right? She went to China for the Women's Rights Festival and said the famous line, "Women's rights are human rights, and human rights are women's rights." Anyway, when she was running for president, then Sarah Palin showed up. I think I'm going to give her some boots because she's from Alaska. She also challenged, people were wondering, wait, this is a feminist, and then Sarah Palin, can she be a feminist too? Can a Republican be a feminist? What does feminism mean? Feminism means women doing what they want to do when they want to do it, and behaving how they want to behave, and working at what they want to work at, and doing what their lives what they want to do. That's what, to me, feminism means, equality. And then another person who really made the country sit up and think and challenge their assumptions about women, and black women in particular. I mean, both Shirley Chisholm and Sojourner Truth challenged our country's thinking about black women, and there are others too. This is just not a scientific sample here. Was Michelle Obama, First Lady, and she did play a fairly traditional First Lady role, but the fact that she was a First Lady was challenging for many people to understand, like, strong black woman. What does that mean? What does it mean historically? Let's see. Thank you, Pablo. Pablo says a great take on everything. I'm just talking about the Amy Coney Barrett hearings today and yesterday and probably tomorrow, and how it's challenging our assumption of what a woman can be. Not that she's the first woman on the Supreme Court, of course not. But yesterday the GOP was talking about how many kids she has and how great that is, and it made me think about how they would not say that about a man. So there have been 3 Supreme Court justices who are women, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, this is who I'm drawing right now, the first Jewish woman on the Supreme Court, made us think a lot about women and women's roles in society. And finally, I'm just going to draw a picture of Amy Coney Barrett, who to me looks, I've been watching it a little bit. She looks a little scared. even though she's not, I'm sure. She's probably just thinking. But it is curious to me that the form of religion she comes from or adheres to is, let's give her some shoes, is pretty darn conservative Christianity, Catholicism, right? And there's the branch that feels women need to stay home, and that's what God wants them to do, to be the wives and the caretakers, and not go out. Now, I don't know how she managed to escape that. Let's see what you guys are saying. Hello from Puerto Rico, Sonia. Please don't root for Amy because she's a woman. I agree. I mean, she's a person. So let's see. Shall I do a little drawing, a little painting? If you're just joining us, I'm Liza Donnelly. I'm a cartoonist and a writer for a lot of different publications, and I'm talking about today's news just in an offhand way, talking about women that have challenged our assumptions of what a woman should be in society, what her role should be. This is Sojourner Truth. This is not historical sampling. It's just a sampling that I came up with. And these are mostly women that I remember when I was young and when I was growing up. So Shirley Chisholm, who ran for Congress and was a congresswoman, the first black congresswoman in the United States. And Geraldine Ferraro, who was a lawyer and a senator, or congresswoman, and she ran for vice president with Walter Mondale, which threw everybody for a loop. Like, wow, that's different. I remember that. The country was excited, but also confused. As Hillary Clinton. Sarah Palin, who also challenged our assumptions. Like, well, wait, can a Republican be a feminist? I think they can. Feminism means equality. Michelle Obama. Michelle has not run for office, but she was First Lady, and she made an interesting impact on our thinking about black women in the Oval Office, even as First Lady. Ruth Ginsburg. And then Amy Coney Barrett. It's not a scientific sample, guys. I realize that I've left out all kinds of people, but these are people that, I mean, when Sonia Sotomayor was confirmed, we weren't necessarily talking about her role or her being as a woman in the Supreme Court. She was, her ethnicity was more on the table, I think. But anyway, this is what I'm thinking about today. I'll probably fill this in later because it's wet and I don't want it to bleed. So let me see what you guys are saying. American politics are scaring the rest of the world. Kenton says from Australia. It's pretty funny. Amy still needs life experience to be Supreme Court. I kind of agree. She's not that she's young. Well, she is young. She's what, 48? Is Amy Coney Barrett. She doesn't have a whole lot of experience on the court, which I think is not a good idea. She's extremely smart, though. I listened to her today. I'm just like very impressed with her brains. powerful women in society to be one of the best things that could ever happen to our society, but we need a woman with actual experience like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I kind of agree. So, anyway, this is unscientific list, lineup of women that I think have challenged our assumptions of what it means to be a woman in society in leadership roles. Turn that off. Because Amy Coney Barrett and her Christianity, it shouldn't be an issue, but it is because the Republicans are making it an issue, and they're also making it an issue that she's got 7 children, which shouldn't be an issue in this. So that's what prompted me to think about this, and we'll see how it goes forward. I think she'll probably get confirmed because they have the majority, and then we'll see what happens. And the election is soon. So take care, guys. Thank you for joining me. I really, really appreciate you being here, and it's been a joy and lots of fun to draw for you. Please join me again tomorrow, same time, 5:30. Liza Donnelly, cartoonist and writer, perhaps news. See you tomorrow.